Welcome to That Art Show, an occasional series that brings you closer to art and celebrates the art of life. I'm Robin Nye, manager of the Art Programs Division for the City of Tampa, and I'm glad you're here. Simply put, Tampa is a creative place because it is filled with creative people. And just for a little while, we are going behind the scenes to showcase how these creative people intersect their environment to craft their works of art. Later in the show, I will talk with an artist whose creative spirit shines through all she does. But first, Frank Crum is shining some light on a street in downtown Tampa, so bedazzled it makes the yellow brick road look a little drab.
Decorated with state-of-the-art parking meters, orange canvas shade structures, and a colorful array of natural plants, Zack Street in downtown Tampa is turning heads in the urban design community. This curvaceous streetscape sports so much curb appeal that Mayor Bob Buckhorn dubbed it the Promenade of the Arts. And the name is fitting. Even the utility boxes are decorated. The transformation process started months ago under the artistic direction of Grand Booth Landscape Architecture, a regional design firm. David Vaughn, the Director of Contract Administration for the City of Tampa, was instrumental in creating Zack Street's new look.
This was a chance to step back and from the outset of the design, look at the overall streetscape and how this street could perform and the kind of experiences that it could offer. And so we were looking at not only the sustainability features, we were looking at landscaping, we were looking at wider walks.
From all indications, this innovative idea paid off. Zack Street has become the bridge between Tampa's busy downtown core and its cultural arts district.
Well, the first thing that you notice on Zack Street are the wide sidewalks. The wide sidewalks make room for people to walk, be able to spend time just leisurely getting down the street. They have a lot of room to be able to move forward. If someone's riding a bike, they can also get on the sidewalk as well. The other part is that there's trees at certain points where you can sit back and sort of enjoy the shade. They're not big trees now, but they will be in several years down the road. It really is a grand avenue for pedestrians to enjoy.
Citizens and tourists alike have an easily identifiable path to the Glazier's Children's Museum, Curtis Hickson Waterfront Park, and the Tampa Riverwalk.
We like to think that the Tampa Theater started the Arts District in Tampa. We opened our doors in 1926.
Jill Witecki thinks the new Zack Street elevates the curb appeal of Tampa's iconic movie palace.
Well, we're thrilled about the increase in foot traffic in downtown Tampa. With Zack Street, with all of the new restaurants on Franklin Street, with some of the new residential areas and all of these new little businesses popping up, we are seeing more and more people walking around downtown Tampa. And all it takes is for them to walk past the Tampa Theater and see that amazing marquee to know that something really special is going on here.
For Witecki and her boss, John Bell, the other really special thing along Zack Street is the medallion dedicated to the Tampa Theater.
On the projector here, coming out of the beam, there's a little tribute to Fink Findley, who is our resident ghost. As you know, Fink, anytime anything happens at the theater that's a little strange, we always blame Fink.
Medallions like these are placed all along Zack Street and depict the people, places, and structures that are important to Tampa's cultural fabric. State Senator and Tampa native Arthenia Joyner loves the concept of the medallions. One in particular transports her back to her youth and to Tampa's former black business district, Central Avenue.
It stretched from Henderson to Cass, and every black business that was in existence in this community was represented in those 7 or 8 blocks. And so as a child, I was privy to seeing what it's like to be a black business person, a black professional. I had the love and affection of all of the people, and it was like family.
Joyner is not bitter about the city's segregated past. She's optimistic that the medallions can foster a better sense of community.
Tampa was built by all of the people, that everybody played a part in making this city what it is today. To be embedded along the street in a medallion where people now will perhaps go further and say, let me do more to find out what role all of these people and all of these places that are exemplified by these medallions, what role did they play in making Tampa the city that it is today.
This is Frank Crump for That Art Show.
Zack Street has definitely started a buzz in downtown about the need for art in public spaces. It is also encouraging more privately owned businesses along the street to be more aware of the role art can play in gaining new customers. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, but it is not always the best way. Sometimes finishing a project in record time does not produce the best result. For artists on any level, the best work has to go through a process, and as Melissa LeBaron discovered, the process can make for an interesting story.
Planning and problem solving, words that are not immediately associated with art. But sculptures like this just didn't happen overnight. There's a lot of creativity and teamwork that goes into it.
In order to get a grasp of the full process, we traveled to MGA Sculpture Studio in St. Pete. Commissioned by the West Shore Alliance in the city of Tampa, Catherine Woods was tasked with creating a gateway to the West Shore neighborhood. By meeting with key members of the neighborhood, Catherine was able to reflect the true vibe of the area in her art.
With West Shore, after talking to the stakeholders, it became apparent that it's a destination. If you stand on the corner where the artwork is, I mean, traffic just zooms by there nonstop. People are going to restaurants or they're going shopping, they're coming from the airport. So there's just a lot of activity in the area, and I wanted to design a piece that reflected that.
Incorporating her signature glass aesthetic with images she photographed from the neighborhood, Catherine developed Kinetic Ring. She then took that concept to her fabrication team.
I go to my engineer and it's like, before I show it to the client, I go to him and say, can this be built? Because that's important to know. I go, yeah, sure it can be. So I'll sell it and I'll come back, he goes, well, it can be built but not exactly like that, which I love. And I'm like, well, he goes, what you need to do is this. I'm like, I don't like the way that looks, how about this? And he's like, well, it won't stand up then, how about this? And we go back and forth. So we're looking at the model that we sold to the client.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting that we started out with this yoke idea as sort of a frame for the glass, and the glass being the most important thing.
Right.
This back and forth process takes a great deal of teamwork and problem solving. Mark Ailing, owner of MGA Sculpture Studio, is Catherine's partner on Kinetic Ring.
I am a sculptor first and foremost, so I love dimensional object making, and oftentimes people will ask me when they find out I'm a sculptor what my medium of choice is, and I generally respond whatever it is that solves the problem most effectively.
And true problem solving was needed for this project. Catherine and Mark went through 8 redesigns in order for the sculpture to be structurally sound while maintaining Catherine's original vision.
If you look at the original model that I showed for Kinetic Ring and what it turned into, it changed quite a bit for engineering reasons. The feeling of the piece, the idea and concept behind the piece stayed the same. It was just the structure changed a little bit, and I actually think it got better.
Bonnie Lowe, who works next door to the sculpture, enjoys it every day.
The vendors arrived in the morning and they started the installation, and throughout the day they were extremely busy, especially the electricians with the lighting. When I left to go home at 4:30 at night, there was only the framework installed, and when I came in to work the next morning, the glasswork had been installed, and it was just beautiful. I think definitely something like this enhances the West Shore District.
A balance of science, engineering, creativity, and craftsmanship were applied to reach the final frame of Kinetic Ring. Believe it or not, most of the work on the structure was done by hand. Now visitors and residents have a beautiful sculpture welcoming them to the West Shore District.
What I love about public art is the collaboration with a lot of different disciplines. I love working with engineers and architects. I love working with the water jet guys and working with Mark on the metal and working with Germany on the glass, because art can be a pretty solitary pursuit. So getting out and being able to work with the village, so to speak, it's kind of nice. It's egalitarian public art. I mean, it's out there for everybody to enjoy, and I quite like that.
For That Art Show, this is Melissa LeBaron.
Catherine Wood's ability to work through the details is a great example of collaborative thinking in action. Works like this should inspire all of us to take a second look at the way projects are approached. Sometimes a chance encounter can launch a child on the journey of a lifetime. For Susan Gott, the journey began in a glass studio. Over the years, her journey has taken many twists and turns, but she remains a woman on fire for the arts. Here at the Phoenix Glass Studio,
Right there, right where I was. Hot, no, bigger circle, bigger circle, bigger circle.
there is definitely a master artist at work.
And stop. Come look at that L7, that's awesome.
Susan Gott is a modern-day alchemist using heat and sand to create beautiful glass objects. But just as one of Gott's works is made from a combination of materials, time, and imagination to forge a unique piece of art, the same can be said about Gott's path in life. Susan Bowling Gott grew up in Virginia and Tennessee. Her earliest encounters with art came through paintings made by her grandmother that were hanging throughout the family home. But it could not be said that art was a primary focus in the Gott home.
There was paintings around my house that I knew my grandmother had done. And I was always painting or making some little artsy craftsy thing constantly growing up. I'm definitely the only artist of the family, so it is a little unusual in my family. It's not something that was necessarily I was honed to do. It just kind of happened that way.
Gott's passion for glass can be traced back to a series of family trips.
I do remember as a child going to Blinko Glass Factory. I remember going there several times and sitting there and watching the glass blowers as a young child and just going, wow.
Susan's love for art would take her to Radford University. She would also study at various craft schools. She came to Tampa in the 1980s to work in art education and quickly fell into the Ybor art scene. Eventually, Gott would get her master's degree from Kent State University. Tell me about how coming back to Tampa after graduate school, getting the studio set up or started. How did all of that take place?
It happened fairly quickly, actually, and fortunately for me, career-wise, I was lucky enough to kind of find this house sitting in this old neighborhood of Tampa at a very affordable price, and it had the commercial zoning that I needed. It had the access to natural gas. I had researched all of these things, and I also found out that I would be able to build a studio, build a building on the property.
And with the help of friends and some good old-fashioned elbow grease, the Phoenix Glass Studio was born. Since Gott's first furnace went hot, she's been a woman on fire. Her sculptural glass works are featured in collections throughout Florida, including the Unitarian Church, the University of Central Florida, All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, and the city of Tampa. Some of her artwork can be found in museums as far as Austria and Armenia. Gott uses a casting process to create her glass sculptures. The formula for her spectacular structures is surprisingly simple.
It's all about alchemy in the studio, the colors, the temperatures. I say it's all timing, temperature, and teamwork. The design, the mold making, the parts, the pieces, the casting process, the annealing process, which is the cooling process, the finish work involved, the grinding and polishing of the surfaces is incredibly labor intensive every step along the way.
The outcomes of this process are slightly whimsical images with a mythical quality. Most of her images explore notions about connections, how we connect with humor, love, and even our own existence. Gott's work allows us to explore our own spirituality. But her pieces can serve a practical function too. But out of all of her accomplishments, she ranks motherhood and being a faithful daughter as her greatest achievements.
Nice and full. Woohoo!
Gott is tenacious, but to be a successful woman in this field, tenacity is a prerequisite.
Running my own studio has definitely had its challenges. It's a very industrial process. It's not something that most people can do or would do, male or female, and it's a very expensive undertaking. I didn't get here easily, and
if somebody really wants to learn glass, they have to have that stick-with-itness. It's not going to come easy.
Gott is an alchemist, artist, and a woman on fire for her craft. Her fascination with glass won't burn out anytime soon.
No other material has that transparency and quality of light. It's a beautiful thing, unlike any other material. It can be transparent, translucent, sandblasted. It can have depth and reflect color. So I think that is what keeps coming back to me. I'm sitting here and looking across the room, and I see the sunlight coming through some of my castings on the other side of the room, and that's what it is. It's that depth.
I had a fun time during my visit with Susan. You'll be happy to know while I was there, she received a call from Moscow, and she's been invited to showcase several of her pieces there. Well, that's it for the first edition of That Art Show. I hope you have enjoyed what you have seen. If you'd like to know more about art programs, check out our website at tampagov.net/arts. I'm Robin Nye, and from everyone here at TAS, thanks so much for joining us.